Hey, what's up everybody? It is Kellen here from Start Your Systems, and welcome back to Monster Energy Supercross 3, the official video game where today we're going to be playing a custom replica version of the 2021 Houston 2 Supercross and talking about the real-life 2021 Houston 2 Supercross that was absolutely insane in real life. So if you haven't already watched the race already, this is going to be full of spoiler alerts for you, so you might want to click off this video and go watch something else, but come back to this after you've watched the race to hear all the fun, interesting topics that I'm going to have to talk about today, because there is a lot to go over, and hopefully I don't take too much of your time. So let's dive right in, shall we? First off, the 450 main event, one of the kind of craziest nights really in general, and then the main event being like one of the more unpredictable ones. I feel like that I just didn't expect everything that happened in that 450 main event to happen. And there's a lot of things that have come out from it, too, that I'm going to need to kind of divulge into. But we'll get to that in a minute. So it starts off, Chase Sexton, whole shot, Adam Cianciarulo, who I'm playing as, second place, Eli Tomac in third, and they pretty much settled in like that for the first couple of laps. And then I think it was lap 3 or 4, Adam Cianciarulo dumps it in the sand all by himself, just kind of buries the front wheel into the corner and goes over the bars. And, coughs up second, goes all the way back to, I think, like 20th or something like that, because the field was still so close together, so everybody was tightly packed, and then before you know it, Cianciarulo's way down the running order. And so it gives Sexton I think he was like a 5-second lead by the time Cianciarulo had gone down, because it was him and AC pulling away out front, and then with AC gone, Sexton had a pretty big lead on Eli Tomac, who had moved into second. So Sexton leads for 2 more laps, and then lo and behold, the exact same corner that bit Cianciarulo just moments earlier bites Sexton as well, in a lot more dramatic fashion, more difficult fashion, I guess you could say. Sexton coming through the corner, just kind of tucks the front wheel on exit. He's already carrying speed into the section to try to, I guess he would be tripling into that section, because that was the line that he was doing. So he's coming through the corner, he's shifting his weight from leaning forward to starting to lean back a little bit, but the front end kicks a little bit awkwardly, pitches him sideways, and then before you know it, he's flying through the air forwards and over the first jump face into the second jump face very hard, landing on his back/head area. Update from Sexton, who had to pull out of the race after that and walk back to the pits. He was holding his arm, and it looked like he was, maybe nursing a wrist injury or something like that. I theorized it might be collarbone, but it turns out it was actually shoulder blade related, and initial tests last night with the Asterix Mobile Medical Unit and such revealed inconclusive, basically, is what they were coming up with. But he went in for an MRI scan this morning, and he's still waiting for test results to come back. He just tweeted about it right before I hit record on this video, so we'll see whether or not he's going to be able to race again on Saturday, but championship-wise, I don't think he's anywhere close at this point. He's already 31 points down, or 30 points down, I should say. So even if he comes back and is the same guy that he was beforehand, it's still a huge points haul to dig himself out of here. So that was a bummer, because it looked like he might well take off for his first career main event win. I mean, he looked that comfortable and fast early in the runnings, but I guess the track only can go so fast, and he found the limit there. So unfortunate that happened. But what happened in that situation with Sexton going down, that's going to pertain to what I'll hit on a little bit more later, was the red cross flag came out after Eli Tomac had gone by. So Tomac goes by, takes the lead. Justin Brayton's coming by in second, and that's when the red cross flag jumps out and is displayed to the entire field for the first 2 or 3 jumps of that section, where Sexton is still laying mangled on the ground. And it was displayed for the entire field that went by that lap. And I think it was actually still displayed when Tomac came by the next lap. So Tomac did have to roll the section, and I think some other people still did have to roll it again. So it wasn't just Tomac got away scot-free. He did still have to roll it again next lap, and I think some other people maybe did in the next lap, because Sexton was getting off the track when Tomac came by. So anyway, the red cross flag came out, and that's going to be huge later on, as I'll discuss. But anyway, continue on with the race. Tomac goes to the lead, and I tweeted this last night after the race, but Tomac won this race, and it may have been like the least Tomac-esque ride I've ever seen to get a win. All day long, in practice, he was like 7th fastest, 7th or 8th overall. He looked fine. He didn't look really frisky, though. It didn't look like he had like top level speed that those guys are running and looked like he was ultra comfortable in qualifying or in practice. And then in the heat race, I thought he just looked average. Cianciarulo passed him by quadding over him in this section. He started with the lead group and kind of went backwards from them and lost touch. And I was kind of thinking, like, not panic button, but like, man, if this main event doesn't go well for Eli, we got to start thinking, like, how does this affect points haul down the road? Because if he does get the ball rolling, but he comes out of here with like an 8th or a 9th on the night, it's not going to look too good to go 13-8 to start the year. And I very much thought he could do that. Now, once he got the lead in the main event, he did a very, very good job of managing the lead, but he still was not the fastest rider on the track during the Sexton Cianciarulo stuff going on out front or after that, because Osborne slowly started reeling Tomac in. Fastest rider on the track for most of the race was Dylan Ferrandis, who was recovering from like a 6th or 7th place start, made a couple passes, and then got to Muscan, I think it was, for 3rd and passed him. Or no, it was Brayton that he passed for 3rd. That's right. So passed Brayton for 3rd, and then it looked like he was reeling in Osborne for sure, but it looked like he was going to probably run out of time to getting to Zacho for 2nd, and then Zach crashes with like 4 laps to go, I think it was, and relinquishes that position. I think he ended up finishing 10th. But it looked like Zach was going to win that main, and then once Ferrandis got Zach, it looked like, man, if he had a couple more laps, Ferrandis might win that main, because he pulled up on Tomac like a 2nd a lap for the last 3 laps of the race, and I'm sure Tomac was managing to some degree, but Ferrandis looked frisky, man, and that is really huge for him to get his first career podium out of the way, finish 2nd in the main. He's now only 1 point off of the championship lead, which I'll get into that in a second. But, Ferrandis has only been back on the bike for 4 days since he broke his wrist in December, so he is fresh and, like, seemingly just making this whole thing work when I really fully expected him to be a little bit more behind the 8 ball when it came to prep and testing and everything, but he looks comfortable, man. He looks like he is pretty dialed in on that Yamaha already, and fitness-wise, he doesn't look off at all, which is crazy for all the time that he missed and probably not being able to get a lot of upper body strength in, training in on his wrist, which was broken. So, legs-wise, I'm sure he got a lot of cardio and stuff done, but I just don't imagine that he's got a ton of, weight room exercises done for his upper body, and then just getting back on the bike, he certainly doesn't have the, extra little fitness that it takes to be on the bike for all that time, but he looks totally fine and comfortable, and he did, 29 laps fairly no problem and kept at least, the lead group honest by the end of it. So, keep an eye on Ferrandis. This could get interesting if he is a guy that, as the series goes on, gets stronger and stronger with his fitness coming back and getting more used to the bike and starting up front and challenging and stuff like that. I don't think anybody really expected that Ferrandis would be this good straight up from the injury, but he's looking pretty strong to me, in my opinion. So it was Tomac, Ferrandis 1-2, and then Justin Brayton, 36 years young, ends up on the podium again, his first podium since, I believe, when he won Daytona in 2018, and my boss, Jason Wygant, was over the moon about that, but Brayton just rode solid, man. He just, let the carnage fall around him and basically just put in a moto and ended up in 3rd and held off a late charge from Cooper Webb, who was riding very, very strong late in the race, and honestly, up until, the main event and maybe even halfway into the main event, it was are we about to hit a panic button for Cooper Webb a little bit here? He was not looking that good and again was going backwards. Roxon had caught and passed him. Barsha was catching him, and then Barsha ran into an issue that I'll talk about in a second as well, but Webb looked just so super solid the entire second half of the main event, caught and passed a bunch of people that were passing him early in the race, and then before you know it, he's challenging Brayton for 3rd and couldn't quite get him. But I'm definitely not as over the fence as I was about Webb at the beginning of the year, because I felt man, he just didn't look comfortable at the first round, and then the second round in practice and everything. I felt like it was kind of the same story, just didn't seem like he looked very comfortable until halfway through the main event, and then he looked great. And Tomac kind of the same thing, not very comfortable, not even really comfortable while in 3rd place with Sexton and Cianciarulo out front, and then gets the lead, and it just kind of maybe it reignites whatever was inside of him that won the championship last year and made him realize I am good enough to win this race, So it was weird. It was just such a weird night race or whatever, because I don't legitimately feel that the fastest rider on the track won, which is something that does happen from time to time, but it's rare that Tomac isn't the fastest rider on the track and still wins the race. So that was definitely peculiar. Now, getting back to a couple things. First off, Justin Barsha ends up finishing in 9th in the race. And Barsha, what ended up happening to him was with about, I think, 7 or 8 laps to go, I think it was he clipped a tough block or something like that and ripped his shift lever completely off. And what it sounds like was he ripped the tough block when he was in first gear, or maybe he was in second gear and it shifted him down to first and then ripped off. So Barsha was stuck in first gear for the last 8 or 9 laps of the main event, which is really hard to ride. Obviously hitting the whoops is tough enough in first gear, but really just the whole track, like there's some jumps that definitely would be a little bit pucker factor to try to hit in the rhythm lanes, and the Supercross triple would be fairly easy, but still it's one of those that you want to be in second gear and probably lug up to it. So Barsha went from right behind Ken Roczen and battling forward with Kenny in the main event to finishing down in 9th in the main event, which hurts him a little bit, but in the end kind of doesn't hurt him as bad as it certainly could have. And he was frustrated after the race, which is why he was yelling and screaming and throwing his hands around. But, push comes to shove, things are still looking pretty okay for Barsha, who, despite having an awful start of the main event, was riding well for most of the main and was probably on the verge of sneaking into the top 5 before it was over, before that issue had happened. So he was looking like he was going to be in an okay situation, and he still is in a pretty okay situation to me, because arguably the biggest talking point somehow out of all this chaos is going to be a penalty, in fact 4 penalties that were levied after the race. So as I had mentioned, Chase Sexton going down, red cross flag comes out at the beginning of the section. The rule is that you have to clear the section, or clear the incident I should say, which is where Sexton was down at, before you can continue with wheels off the ground racing. So no doubling, no jumping through rhythm lanes. And 4 riders committed an infraction with the red cross flag out. Ken Roczen was the first one to do it. Jason Anderson followed him 2 bikes later. Martin Davalos hit it about 6 bikes after that, and then Vince Fries, who was down early on, came through about 10 seconds after that and also jumped on a red cross. So 4 riders were penalized: Roczen, Anderson, Davalos, and Fries. And Roczen very, very unhappy about the penalization because, as he showed on his Instagram, from his viewpoint, he was completely blocked by Dylan Ferrandis in front of him and couldn't see the red cross flag, and believes it was not a blatant attempt at jumping on red cross. But unfortunately for Kenny in this situation, nobody is blatantly attempting to jump on a red cross flag. I don't think anybody rolls into a section and thinks like, red cross, I'm going to jump for sure. Like, that's not how it happens. It's just sometimes in those situations you miss the flag, or you miss what's going on. Everybody in front of and behind Roczen rolled, and I feel like Roczen, realizing that a rider was down, there's flags waving everywhere and riders are rolling a section, you still have to roll the section. Like, I get that he probably missed it, but that's still an infraction that he has to adhere to. And I get why he's frustrated, because I personally have ranted about this before, and how misused the red cross flag is, and how often they get this situation wrong where they put the red cross flag out and a bunch of riders jump and they do nothing. They don't penalize people. It happened in the LCQ just last night, where a bunch of guys in the 250 LCQ, I think it was, there were some guys down in the first corner. The red cross comes out in the second rhythm lane because everybody was trying to get slowed down as they crossed over where everybody was laying in the middle of the track. And or maybe it was the 450 LCQ. But anyway, like literally 7-8 guys at the front of the field just jumped through the rhythm section like normal. Even though the red cross flag was waving, nothing happened. No penalties for those guys. In the end, they just rode on and finished the LCQ, and some of those guys qualified for the main event, even though they had committed an infraction. So the rule that follows along here with the main event specifically is in the main event, if you do it and you do not gain a position, the penalty is losing points equal to 2 positions plus 2 points. So when Marvin Muscan was docked 7 points after he won Seattle in 2019 and was docked 7 points but kept the win, it was 2 positions plus 2 points back then. It's the same rule as it is back then today. So, for Marvin's case, it was going from first place to third place points, which is at that time 21 minus 2 extra points down to 19 points. In Roczen's case, it's going from, he finished 5th So 5th place points down to 7th place points, which is 13 points. Or no, I'm sorry, which is 16 points minus 2 more points after that to get down to 14 points total that he earned on the night instead of earning the 18 points that he finished in. So it still is credited with him finishing 5th. Nobody jumps him in the standings or results. It's literally just him finishing 5th and then being docked 4 points, essentially. He also lost some purse money, but at the end of the day, that's pennies on the dollar compared to what they make. So the infraction and the rule for those guys was followed to a T, but my complaint, as always, is the red cross is misused a lot, so these guys oftentimes kind of negate the fact that it exists and jump anyway. But even so, the red cross isn't penalized equally across the board. There's guys that jump all the time and don't get penalized. It happens all the time. I see it all the time. Like, you can't come up with, maybe they just missed it, or maybe some people didn't see it. Like, I see it all the time, and I'm not at every race. Like, I do go to some of the races, not this year, but most of the time I'm at a couple, and I see it happen all the time. People jumping on red cross and nothing happens. So to me, that's the problem that I find in this, is that, like, yes, Kenny was probably blind to it, but he still broke the rules. At the end of the day, the problem is, though, that the rules are not enforced equally, and that's where I think Kenny should be mad, is because, like, yeah, he didn't try to blatantly break the rules. He missed the red cross, but so did Dungey. Like, Dungey completely missed a red cross that was blocked and on, like, an awkward positioning on the inside of a rhythm lane, and that cost Ryan Dungey a race victory in 2016. This just cost Ken Roczen 4 points and, 5th place purse money. At the end of the day, I don't think that, the purse money is going to matter at all, and the 4 points might not be significant in the end, but we'll see. We'll have to see how it all plays out. So I feel for Kenny, but at the same time, safety cannot be ignored here, and if a red cross is out and everybody in front of you is rolling and adhering to it, you got to do it too, even if you maybe were slightly blinded to the red cross and the guy was kind of standing on the track trying to wave it and Ferrandis was to the left of Roczen, but still, I mean, if everybody else is rolling it, like, you got to kind of realize something's going on there, Kenny. And he said he jumped it and then looked back and realized there's a red cross, and that's the exact same thing that happened to Marvin in 2019, where he jumped it, didn't realize it, looked back, realized there's a red cross, and just said, I don't know what to do. Like, I guess I got to keep going and just try to get as many points as I can, which is, I think, what Kenny was trying to do. So, again, I understand the rules, I understand the infraction, I understand it being applied correctly in this specific situation, but I think we can do better. I think that, the red cross rules are ridiculous in the first place. They need to come up with some new system for that. I think the red cross flag is kind of useless anyway, because they stick one out between like 7 yellow flags and expect these guys to see it. I think what we could do something better is have little sensors throughout the racetrack, little sensors in each section, where if there is an injured rider, all somebody has to do from a director's chair up above is hit a button to say, like, Sector 2 red cross, and a little red light will illuminate on a rider's handlebars. Like, all you're doing is adding, like, probably, a couple ounces of this little Bluetooth kind of device that sits on their handlebars and isn't, in the way or anything, but it's just a little red dot light that appears and illuminates in front of them, so they know when they're about to enter a section that they need to roll. Like, something like that could be a much needed advancement in technology for these guys. Like, there's just so much more that we could do than letting human error be the problem here, which is what it is. The red cross flag was only being held by one flagger on the track, and he was in a really kind of awkward spot, but I get that he couldn't really get into a much better spot than he was. And then Roczen, just being kind of blinded to his left by a rider going by it, didn't see it, and then ends up jumping on a red cross, and it docks him some points. So I can understand people being upset. I understand where you're coming from there, but I still think that if the rule is going to be applied fairly, it has to go across the board. You can't just say that, well, Roczen is the only one that missed it, and Anderson clearly saw it and jumped, and Doblos clearly saw it and jumped, and I'm sure they're all going to come up with the exact same excuse. Nobody blatantly jumps on red cross flags. It's ridiculous. Nobody does that on purpose. They're just trying to gain the max amount of time that they can, and sometimes it doesn't catch their eye because they're so tunnel vision. So I get where riders come from when they're saying it, but I think that what it comes down to is just fixing the red cross rules and the implementation on how they put it on the track in the first place. That's my opinion on that. So Roczen docked 4 points, goes from the championship lead to 5th now because this championship is absolutely ridiculous. So Barsha holds on to the points lead. He's going to have the red plate this weekend again in Houston, and Barsha is on 40 points. Dylan Ferrandis is on 39 points. Justin Brayton is on 38 points. Marvin Muscan is on 38 points. Ken Roxon's on 37 points. Eli Tomac is on 36 points. Malcolm Stewart is on 34 points. Let's see, Cooper Webb is on 33 points. And Adam Cianciarulo in P9 is on 30 points. So P9 in the series is only 10 points down after 2 ridiculously crazy rounds. And Cianciarulo, who looked to have his night completely disaster ruined by the crash in the sand, somehow did a good job to recover for 12th and kind of salvaged, I think, a title hope here, because he's still less points down right now than Eli Tomac was after the opener, and Eli Tomac is only 4 points off of the lead now after winning this main event. So this 450 class is unbelievably parodic, and I just, it's crazy. It's insane what's going to happen on Saturday, and I just kind of can't wait to see it again. And I have no idea who's going to win, because I didn't know when the gate dropped. I had no idea who's going to win that race. Normally, like, you have like an indication, like, oh, this guy could start up front, this guy could maybe challenge. I seriously didn't know, and I still didn't know. Like, when Sexton was leading and Cianciarulo was in second, I was like, maybe it's these two that go for the win. And then Cianciarulo went down, and I'm like, maybe Sexton straight up wins, or maybe, you know, gets tired late and Tomac catches him. And then Sexton went down, and it still didn't look like Tomac was clearly going to win the race at all to me. I thought the guys were going to catch and pass him again. So I think that's just where we are in this class and this championship, and how blown wide open this 450 class is, that we have 9 guys separated by 10 points, and really all the way down to 6th is only separated by 4 points. And I mean, this is going to be absolutely nutty. So Barsha keeps the points lead after the penalty and heads into Houston 3 with the red background still. Gosh, I have no idea what to think. This is going to be absolutely insane. Onto the 250 class, and not a whole lot to talk about in terms of drama there, aside from one very specific moment. Gent Lawrence, whole shot, led every lap, wins the main event. His first career win, 366 days after the A2 broken collarbone that he almost won the main event at A2 and then crashed going for it. So Lawrence, I think, you know, that's kind of what we expected to see at the opening round, and he said he was just completely off with setup at the opening round and just didn't feel comfortable, and made a couple adjustments at round 2, felt a lot better, and obviously it showed. I mean, he looked pretty good all night show, good starts in the heat and the main, and then, you know, got out front and pulled away a pretty big lead early on and just kind of coasted home the victory in the end, because the drama unfolded behind him. RJ Hampshire's in second, Austin Faulkner's catching him from third, and they literally had a feature on the broadcast earlier that day about Austin Faulkner and you know, calming down his moves and you know, not going for desperation passes and stuff like that, which I don't necessarily think this was a desperation pass, but I think that the way he kind of went about it was ultimately wrong, and it's going to cost him a lot. But anyway, yeah, he goes through this section, triples to the inside, and basically just runs Hampshire to the top of the berm for the most part. Like, I think if Hampshire's not there, Faulkner's going to the very outside rut, which is kind of insane when there's somebody, you know, that is there. Like, I guess you could say Hampshire should have expected it, but at the end of the day, it's like, it's still pretty early in the race, and Faulkner's kind of had a history to do this in the past, and these guys not too thrilled about his riding with that. And I think that this move would have been literally the talk of the night had the 450 main not been so much more ridiculous and caused so much more drama to unfold after that. But Faulkner's move was, I just thought, was a tad egregious, a tad early in the race to be making that kind of bold of a pass. And it was so shocking to me that it comes right after, you know, they literally have a feature on him during the day about, you know, he's a guy that makes these aggressive passes. Has he moved on? Has he learned from it? And his response to that earlier in the day as well was like, well, you saw the opening round. I had to pass a bunch of people, and I didn't make any stupid passes, so I think I've moved on. And then, you know, literally makes what I thought was kind of a stupid pass on Hampshire. And lo and behold, we're back to kind of square one. He finished 6th in the main event. He is not the points leader still, and has a bit of a points gap to dig himself out of. It's Christian Craig still in the championship lead over Colt Nichols by 3 points, and then Jet Lawrence is 1 point back at Nichols, so those guys are all close together. But I have to imagine Hampshire, who somehow still finished 9th in that main event after crashing again and going a lap down very early on, is not going to give Faulkner the time of day ever again on the same stretch of racetrack. We saw what happened with Faulkner and Sexton last year, and or not Faulkner and Sexton, I'm talking about Hampshire and Sexton. Hampshire, you know, they had a little bit of a grudge that had carried over from like a whole year before that, and it continued on, and Hampshire clearly didn't give Faulkner, or I keep saying Faulkner, he didn't give Sexton any, you know, leeway or any room there in that situation. And I think kind of the same thing is probably going to happen here with Faulkner. Hampshire is a pretty good starter, so is Faulkner, but it seems like Hampshire's outstarted Faulkner 3 out of the 4 times so far, and I think that in this case, you might see a situation then where Hampshire is in front of Faulkner. Faulkner may come up to try to pass him, and Hampshire just literally launches him in the next corner. Because if you're Hampshire, you're like, dude, what the heck? We were second and third. Like, we were not that far behind Jet. There was so much of the race left to go. Why are you making this desperation pass attempt on me? You know, I think all is fair in the end, and it was a block pass attempt, and I think Rubbin's racing and all, but I still think that it was a tad egregious for Faulkner. And I don't think it's going to sit well with Hampshire at all, which Faulkner does not need to be making enemies if he's going to try to win this championship again this year. So I guess we'll have to see how it plays out, but I just thought that was a bit bold on Faulkner's part. But anyway, Lawrence wins the race. Colt Nichols passes his teammate Craig late for second, and Craig holds on for third. As I said, holds on to the points lead. Craig said he was nursing something with the bike late. I'm not sure what it was. He refused to say, but just was nursing something and trying to hold on. And yeah, so that's why Nichols got him apparently. But yeah, good ride for Lawrence. Good to see him, you know, kind of find his form early in the season. Now we have 2 different winners in this championship fight, and arguably the guy that probably should be winning this championship is, I think, 5th in the points and has no wins on the year so far. So yeah, this could get interesting heading into the 3rd round in Houston, and maybe Faulkner has to put it all behind him and get a win to really make things interesting in this class. Otherwise, it's going to be really interesting to see how Faulkner recovers if he has another bad night. And, you know, this championship goes by really quickly. So anyway, that's just a quick synopsis of the 250 class. Like I said, I feel like the Faulkner incident would be talked about a lot more if the 450 class was less interesting, but the 450 class was gnarly, so we had to talk a lot about it. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed my thoughts and opinions on the race from Houston 2. As always, please be sure to head down to the comment section below, add your thoughts and opinions down there. Happy to discuss and continue bringing up some topics with you guys. I'm sure I missed some because there was so much to talk about from this race, but yeah, thanks you guys for stopping by. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it as always. Appreciate you stopping by, and we'll see you guys in the next one. So long for now.